Yes. Shall we take a look at the front pages of the newspapers, starting with the Daily Mail, which is asking when the government will give the armed forces the funds they need after a minister is reported to have raised concerns about commitments there.
The Mirror pays respect to and leads tributes to those who have given their lives and fought for the country as we remember them on Armistice Day today.
Here's The Guardian. It's leading with Sir Keir Starmer heading to Paris to meet with the French President Emmanuel Macron.
Similar front page for The Times that adds that trade will be a key talking point for them.
And The Express says the PM is disrespecting and ignoring a petition handed to him over winter fuel payments.
Well, here with their views on those stories and a lot more, we've got Dawn Neeson and we have got Christopher Biggins. Very nice to see you both.
And you.
Back in the room, Biggins. To have you back, Biggins. It's been a while. Dawn, shall we start with you? This is on the front of the Mail this morning, and there's been this backlash to comments made by Darren Jones yesterday, who's sort of Rachel Reeves' number two, isn't he?
Yes.
Not committing to increasing defence spending to 2.5%.
Well, this has been one
of GDP.
Yeah, this is one of the promises that we were given in the election by both parties, confirming that we would take GDP of spending to 2.5%. Now it seems like it's not going to happen, or there is no timetable for it to happen, which, given at the weekend the Chief of Defence Staff, Sir Tony Radakin, warned that we need to strengthen armed forces and it's a more dangerous world. It was quite a chilling piece that he wrote for the papers. We do need to actually take this seriously. It's not a joke anymore. And obviously we've got Keir Starmer in France discussing with Macron the future direction of the war in Ukraine in light of Trump's election. And as our Sir Tony Radakin said over the weekend, to not increase GDP spending to 2.5% would get on the wrong side of Trump straight away. Now, we do our bit. There are countries in NATO that do a lot worse than we do. But when you have got countries like Russia and China increasing their GDP spending on defence hugely, we've got to start taking this seriously. Yeah. But something's got to give. I mean, what Darren Jones is saying is that to do that, then it has to be taken from somewhere else. Where do we take the money from?
Then they shouldn't have promised it in pre-election.
Well, lots of promises they made they shouldn't have done. I mean, I can't believe it. I mean, this is an extraordinary story because, of course, we should protect ourselves. I mean, it's because I have a belief that the other countries that we are surrounded by can just press a button and we would go immediately in one fell swoop. There would be nothing to save us because we're so close to all these countries that have these incredible functions to obliterate people.
I suppose Labour will say that the mess and the state of the armed forces is a legacy of the Tories who were in power for 14 years. I mean, there was plenty of criticism from the top brass that you're just quoting there, Dawn.
Yes, of course.
Labour coming into power, wasn't there? That they'd reduced the numbers of troops too far, that the investment was too much. They kept talking about efficiencies in the MOD. It seemed to be the MOD that was the first place to be making efficiencies every time they were cost-cutting.
Because a lot of money was pumped into the National Health Service. But we don't have now enough troops to fill Wembley Stadium, and that's quite depressing. I mean, when considering, I think, China increasing their GDP spending on defence to 7.2% this year, Russia are up to 6%. And Trump has said before that, NATO countries need to start pulling their weight. So to get off on the right foot with this special relationship, that isn't actually a special relationship at all, obviously, we actually start to need considering it. The money has to come from somewhere. Where's it going to be taken from? That's the problem.
Well, exactly. Do we all end up paying more in taxes? Probably.
Not probably, yes.
Definitely. Yes. Yeah, OK.
But the thing about Labour is they have no sense of commitment as to how they're going to fund the armed forces, and they certainly do not feel compelled to fund them within the next 5 years while they have a tenure in Parliament. And I think that is absolutely disgusting that they can dodge the bullet, as it were, on this and not do anything.
There's also an extra strand to the whole defence story on this Armistice Day, that this VAT rise on private schools will affect military families, many of whom depend on boarding schools so that the families can travel overseas. They're saying we have a huge recruitment problem within the forces already. This is going to massively exacerbate it. They should be exempt from the VAT rise.
Well,
Now, you talked on the programme about the fact that all the shops are going to, like Tesco's, Marks and Spencer's, they're all going to have a huge bill at the end of the year. And who's going to pay for it?
The customer.
We are.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's so huge that I don't know. I haven't seen anybody in the paper mention the figures, but it's so huge that it's enormous.
Yeah, this is the extra national insurance they'll have to pay.
Exactly.
Yeah, or people will lose their jobs.
Yes.
The big companies are saying, well, we're just going to start cutting staff.
Absolutely.
But no working people were hurt in the making of this budget. Yeah, right.
I do think Labour have serious questions to answer on this, and they can't just keep pointing the finger at the Conservatives, because if Labour wanted to reverse cuts in the armed forces, they could do that from today.
Yeah.
Yes,
and they're not doing it.
No, they could.
Let's say they don't care about the armed forces, they don't care about the police service, they don't care about farmers.
Pensioners.
Pensioners, well done, yeah. And it goes on and on and on. So where is all this money being spent, this money that
Public sector.
That we don't have,
Yes.
meaning
Well,
pay rises?
Pay rises for anyone in the public sector, with their gold-plated pensions as well.
Why don't they admit that? They're not admitting that. They're keeping that as a secret behind closed bars. I find it extraordinary. I mean, my story is about the pensioners. And I don't know how he has the guts to actually get up in the morning and look at himself.
It's about the winter fuel.
Yes, about the winter fuel. I mean, it is so disgraceful. These people who've paid their taxes for years and years and years. And this is, I would have thought, his big audience. I think a lot of pensioners voted for him.
Yeah. But again, another thing I think we have to face as a country is that we're ageist. And it doesn't seem to be... It seems that if you've served your time, you've paid your bills, you've everything you were supposed to do correctly, you're in some way ageist to give these people benefits that they've earned throughout the years. And that is the trouble. And I do laugh at all these people who talk about the rich pensioners around the country, whoever they are. But when they get to that stage, they're going to find out how rich they aren't.
The thing is with pensioners, you can't go on strike. And you're probably not going to be a Labour voter. But they've also thrown kids onto the bus, haven't they, with the reversal on the university tuition fees?
Yes.
So it's not just against pensioners. I mean, they don't seem to care about youngsters anymore either.
I don't think they care about anybody.
Does make you wonder, doesn't it?
I mean, do they care about themselves? I can't think how they can get up in Parliament and say these things.
Well, I guess they would say they've inherited this enormous black hole, that the government wasn't honest about what the state was in.
Yeah, and they don't have to pay it. They can say what they want about their black hole, but they don't have to pay it. They can put it on the long finger.
Yeah.
Talking of black holes, I mean, the financial black hole in defence spending does come to £29 billion. So there is a black hole there as well. We're surrounded by black holes.
So
where is this money tree? I thought we had one, didn't we?
So you're saying that there could be another 29, did you say billion?
£29 billion black hole in defence funding.
To bring
funding.
defence services up to scratch.
Yeah, yeah, so... Yeah.
Okay.
Dawn, this story on the front of the FT, explain it to me. It's a bit sort of tax heavy. This is a windfall for a number of big British companies from the London Stock Exchange, including ITV. And this is after what happened, an EU tax ruling.
It is very, very complicated. It's a typical Financial Times story. And basically, it's an appeal against a Brussels state aid clampdown that has forced London companies to collect taxes against the company's wishes. Obviously, they wouldn't want to do this. But it's a very complicated legal story. But basically, the companies that were taking this case have won. And it does mean now that the big British companies, which is good news if you work for these companies, maybe you will keep your job despite the national insurance rate, it's a 700 million windfall. So it's a good news story. It's incredibly complicated, a tax story, but it's a little bit of good financial news, hopefully.
Hopefully, indeed. OK.
Freedom of the press at risk after Donald Trump victory, experts warn. This is in The Guardian, Biggins.
Oh, I haven't got that one.
Oh, well.
Sorry.
Right.
My next one was going to be about the stage review of the audience in tears over a musical story of injustice.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Are you sure that's all right?
Yeah.
Well, this is the post office scandal, and it's so interesting, you know, when these topics come up and suddenly they become a commercial product, you know, where you can go and see it. We've seen 2 wonderful documentaries, and we are right behind the post office.
Well, so often these horrendous miscarriages of justice are wonderful stories.
Well, they are.
You know, compelling.
They are indeed. Did you see the one last week on television about the girl her boyfriend was trying to murder her?
I didn't see that one.
It's a true story. I mean, it's the most extraordinary thing. Anyway.
Was it called Until I Kill You?
Yeah, absolutely wonderful. But anyway, this musical is at the Omnibus Theatre in Clapham, which I've never heard of. Anyway, it's got 3 stars in The Guardian, and the audience apparently are in absolute tears. I must say, I've cried a lot on the documentaries because it is so soul-destroying that these people, ordinary people, lost everything. Yeah. Some people died.
Yeah, extraordinary.
I mean, it was extraordinary. So I wonder if this will transfer. I mean, it's an interesting review, but it's, as I say, it's 3 stars from Mark Lawson, and yeah.
It sounds like you might be heading to Clapham soon then to go and watch it for yourself.
Yeah, I don't know whether I will or not.
I think